各位觀眾大家好，歡迎收睇26分鐘見證實錄精華回顧。本國去年嘅通脹率較2023年有所回落，其中油價同埋樓價都輕微下跌。不過食品同埋雜貨嘅價格就持續上升，有好多市民為咗三餐，需要喺食物同埋雜項抵受龐大嘅開支，甚至成為咗月光族。而有市民為咗減輕經濟壓力，每個星期都會到食物賙濟庫領取食物。咁樣做又係咪真係可以解決到佢哋嘅燃眉之急呢？而食物賙濟庫又會否長貧難顧呢？
即係都好鬼貴，而家都魚啊嗰啲嘢都喺生活上以我哋嘅人工嚟講，就人工或者我哋自己攞政府嘅福利，根本就追唔上嗰個物價嘅指數啊！變咗就即係好吃力咯，我哋。
So seniors, they have either they're supporting through pension or through whatever they are getting from the government, but that is just not enough to meet their needs when it comes to food, when it comes to rent, when it comes to other necessities in life. It is getting hard.
食品價格同生活成本上升，為市民帶嚟沉重嘅經濟壓力。希望滿足三餐溫飽嘅基本需求，係咪遙不可及呢？現年76歲嘅蘇先生，30年前同太太由香港移民到大溫。佢初期曾經短暫住喺溫哥華市，之後搬到列治文，直到而家。佢話30年間見證物價急劇上升，不過人工就遠遠追唔上升幅。
相比咧，而家同以前咧，就30年前我初嚟嘅時候咧，啲嘢係幾毫子就買啲生果，而家已經去到幾蚊雞啦嚇！我走去超級市場睇嗰啲。例如我中意食嗰啲 broccoli 啊、bell pepper 啲成3蚊一磅就已經。咁你煮一餐餸都起碼要1-2磅菜，係咪？咁幾廿蚊餸㗎啦，幾廿蚊菜啊煮一餐餸，即係都好鬼貴而家都嘢。魚啊嗰啲嘢都喺生活上以我哋嘅人工嚟講，就人工或者我哋自己攞政府嘅福利，根本就追唔上嗰個物價嘅指數啊！變咗就即係好吃力咯，我哋而家。
蘇先生話：好多年前已經知道可以喺食物賙濟庫免費拎食物，不過一直覺得自己仍然有能力應付日常生活，所以未有考慮。直到舊年，佢決定登記拎食物。
我大概1年前嗰時候咧，咁我都喺附近住嘅啫。咁我行過嘅時候咧，就呢度有個 food bank 啦。咁我就睇見好多人就都喺度排緊食物啦。咁又同嗰個呢度 food bank 人講啦，咁咪知，咁佢又話你如果係需要，你咪即係登記啦。咁而家我登記咗之後，就1個禮拜嚟一次。因為我相信最大嘅原因，嗰啲食物而家個加價得好犀利，即係比起我哋，即係尤其我自己係一個 senior 嚟嘅，我都係每個月都幾百蚊嘅政府俾，所以變咗喺我哋嚟講嗰個食物方面啊，都好難應付。即係而家個食物真係貴得好犀利。3倍以前啊，比起幾年以前啲嘢。
佢又話：賙濟庫嘅食物可以減輕生活部分負擔，不過自己仍然需要喺超級市場買其他嘢食。
我1個禮拜嚟一次咁啦，咁就都有時有啲米，有啲米俾我哋啦，有啲麵包啊，有啲奶啊咁樣子，咁都幫補下咁樣子啦。當然一日嚟就唔可以成個禮拜夠食嘅，咁我都要出去買啲添㗎。咁即係一個資助啦，咁就都減輕咗我每一個月成幾百蚊嘅生活嘅費㗎，都爭好遠嘅都其實都。因為我呢度冇肉食俾我哋，肉食冇咁多肉食俾㗎，咁我都要出去超級市場買啲肉食添啦。有時都唔夠喺處，都要嗰度買啲添。即係呢度幫補下咁啦，但係都唔可以完全話我唔去第處買嘢。
為咗順利向市民派食物，賙濟庫會招募一啲義工協助。葉女士喺列治文食物賙濟庫做義工已經有19年嘅時間。佢話為賙濟庫做義工嘅原因係希望社會上唔會有人要捱餓。
其實咧，我初義工拎嘅時候，我成日經過 food bank 嘅。但 food bank 呢兩隻字咧，對我嚟講係一個好奇怪嘅字。即係我哋嘅認知 bank 就係銀行啦嚇，food bank 咁點樣黐埋一齊？後尾即係過咗幾年之後，先知道原來 food bank 就係要嚟即係免費派發食物俾社區有需要嘅人士。咁當時我知道咗之後咧，我就話如果即係我有時間咧，我都希望可以參與呢一方面嘅工作。 咁啊好啦，咁啊到我真係有時間時候，我就開始就即係報名參加呢個義工啦。咁原因其實就簡單，我覺得一個社會如果佢有 food bank 嘅存在，換言之即係話咧，我哋呢個社會就唔怕有人係餓親，即係飢餓，因為佢嘅食物係免費嘅，差唔多來者不拒。只要你認為你有需要，你就嚟，我哋就會免費俾食物你。
葉女士又話：19年嚟遇過最深刻嘅事就係見到過去幾年拎食物嘅人數越嚟越多，不過食物供應就越嚟越少。
最近呢幾年呢，就好似比例上個食物嘅供應越嚟越少，嚟嘅人數越嚟越多。呢個呢，就係一種即係好顯著嘅改變，因為我哋成日嚟就感覺到㗎啦。咁你話係咪好難忘呢？咁其實就唔係，即係我印象係深刻，即係話呢個社區有需要幫助嘅人好似越嚟越多。咁啊，相對嚟講就或者同一個時間，即係能夠提供免費食物俾 food bank，比例上係咪少咗我唔知道，不過似乎而家係冇以前咁有充足嘅供應咯。
根據列治文食物周濟庫嘅數字顯示，舊年到訪嘅人數較前年上升34%，其中65歲以上嘅長者同18歲以下兒童嘅升幅分別係52%同6%。周濟庫執行總監夏朱歐胡聲話：今年到訪嘅人數較往年更加多，其中包括新移民同國際學生。
We are serving triple the number of people that we were serving pre-COVID, and again, that has a lot to do with how people lost their jobs during COVID and all the health issues that they had. It is a ripple effect, and we are seeing that also during the same time we had a lot of refugees that came in last year and the year before that. There were refugees, there were new immigrants who came, new students who came into Richmond. So that all added up to our numbers, and each week we were doing close to 50 to 60 new registrations, and that number has added up to the number of people that we are serving. So last year alone, we served close to 41% more people than we served the year prior. So the need is definitely there, and our numbers are growing. In terms of who we are serving, about 30% of the people that we are serving are children. And the other demographics that we are seeing more of is our seniors. So we are seeing many seniors accessing food bank, and that is because their incomes are limited. So seniors, they are supporting through pension or through whatever they are getting from the government, but that is just not enough to meet their needs when it comes to food, when it comes to rent, when it comes to other necessities in life. It is getting hard.
蘇先生都話自己每星期拎食物嘅時候，都發現排隊嘅人龍越嚟越長，而身邊有唔少移民多年嘅朋友表示有意回流到原居地。
嗰陣時3幾年COVID開始嘅時候，啲嘢睇住個標啦已經都，咁就可能或者一個又失收啲啦，有啲地方嚟唔到啦。因為我呢度啲生果蔬菜有啲都可能喺墨西哥嗰邊嚟，或者遞樹運嚟嘅，咁變咗運費又增加咗啊，各樣嘢都加咗，變咗嗰個售價咪貴咗咧。一個蘋果而家都成個幾銀紙磅嘅，以前幾毫紙磅嘅啫嘛。係咪啊？但係你揾嘅錢冇3倍增加噶嘛，係咪先？即係變咗嗰個步伐追唔到啊！我哋嗰個揾錢嘅步伐追唔到佢個物價升漲，所以變咗好多人就辛苦自己，冇辦法。而家屋租又貴，樣樣都貴啊！個成本要生活貴真係，揾嘅錢而家得翻縮咗啦，所以使嘅能力縮咗，所以係辛苦嘅，而家係難咗好多。即係而家嚟啲錢，以前咧幾廿年前生活平，啲人好嚟。我聽到有啲移民嚟到都好辛苦，有啲都頂唔住要翻去，因為嗰個物價太犀利、太貴。
胡聲話：隨住到訪人數過多，周濟庫嘅資源變得唔足夠，無奈整體經濟環境變差，捐贈食物嘅供應都大幅減少。
Currently, this year, the food bank has been challenged with lack of donations, like our donations have dropped, both monetary as well as food donations. And that is a lot to do with the rising food prices at the grocery stores as well as rising rent. So many people who come to the food bank, they are struggling to pay their rent because even if they have a job, half or more than half of their money is going towards paying for their rent, and that because food is always a discretionary expense, that is always the first thing that gets cut, and as a result people are coming to the food bank. So that has been our challenge. Like more and more people are coming to the food bank, and our challenge is to meet that growing need with the decrease in donations. And the donations are decreasing because grocery stores they're not donating as much, or it could be like people are like, we used to get a lot of donations from people as well. Those donations have also dropped because again the price of the same kind of food that people used to donate, it's twice as much. So those donations have also dropped, and monetary donations are also dropping because people are being more conservative in their spending.
佢又話要維持州際庫嘅營運係相當困難，不過希望市民可以踴躍捐贈金錢或者食物幫助有需要幫助嘅人。
So about 80% of the food that we are able to distribute, it is from donations or through our food recovery efforts with grocery stores, retail partners, and our wholesale partners or our farm partners. So the food that we are able to receive from them is close to about $5 million worth of food that we are recovering and distributing at the same time. In terms of purchased food, it's very minimal, so it could be like anywhere from 10 to 20%, and it mostly goes towards our dairy purchases and our most needed items. So there are times when we don't get enough of our staple item that's on the distribution shelf. So say for example, if you don't have enough rice or if you don't have enough canned protein, so that's when we do have to use up our monetary donations to purchase food.
食品價格上升，咁再加上租金高昂啊，對於低收入人士嚟講固然係百上加斤。而對於一啲懷住希望嚟到加國升學嘅國際學生，又點樣面對食物開支方面嘅挑戰呢？我哋下一節翻嚟再睇。歡迎翻嚟節目時間。唔少國際學生喺到埗之後，隨即面對生活成本同埋食物昂貴嘅問題。咁但係大灣食物周濟庫喺去年嘅10月就宣布，規定國際學生喺首年讀書期間唔能夠到周濟庫領取食物，令到好多國際學生失去預算。而隨住領取食物嘅人數越嚟越多，各級政府又可以點樣去解決呢一個問題啦？
全國各地嘅食物周濟庫除咗為本地居民提供服務之外，同時都會為國際學生提供支援。不過，大灣食物周濟庫喺今年10月底突然宣布，唔會向溫哥華市內第一年就讀嘅專上院校國際學生提供食物。本台曾經向管理溫哥華市內周濟庫嘅大灣食物周濟庫查問有關原因，但佢哋未有回應。而佢哋較早前曾經發電郵表示，呢項政策係配合聯邦政府要求國際學生喺離家國讀書之前，必須有至少2萬元嘅儲蓄，以應付日常生活。關注本地學生權益嘅卑斯學生聯會秘書及師傅 Cole Weinbo 話：大灣食物周濟庫嘅決定係剝削國際學生嘅權利。
The Greater Vancouver Food Bank's decision to ban first-year international students from accessing food can be viewed as unjust and discriminatory. Hunger doesn't discriminate based on how long someone has been in the country. All residents of the Greater Vancouver area really do deserve access to essential services like the food bank. International students, they contribute significantly to our communities and especially our economy, and denying them access to food assistance adds an unfair burden to this already really vulnerable group.
佢又話禁止國際學生領取食物援助，唔單止令佢哋覺得自己喺社會中不被重視，亦都令卑斯省嘅聲譽受損。
So this policy will make food insecurity even worse for international students who already face sky-high tuition fees, as I'm sure you know. on average, they pay 5 times more than domestic students, 5 times, effectively subsidizing our entire post-secondary system. So denying them access to services like the food bank not only puts them at risk for their well-being, but also sends a message that they're not valued members of our community. And this is leading to increased stress, academic stress, and may discourage prospective international students from choosing British Columbia as their place to study, which BC cannot afford.
曾經喺靚基華學院執教、代表綠黨嘅溫哥華市議員 Adrian Carr 認為呢個做法有問題，對國際學生帶嚟好大壓力。
From what I understand, there are many foreign students, and very many, who simply do not have the money to feed themselves appropriately, who, are just getting by on substandard and insufficient food. And so my concern, of course, is as a former teacher, I care about the students, and you can't expect students to learn well if they're hungry, if they're malnourished. So, I think that the rule, which starts really with the federal government and the requirement of the federal government that foreign students bring sufficient money to be able to sort of support themselves for at least a year. I think it's $20,000 that they have to bring in, but I think it might be expected to last longer than a year. And, that doesn't go far today. I mean, with the rising costs of food, and of course, they're expected to have, be able to find housing, and the cost of housing these days, and even the unavailability of housing, really puts huge pressures on students now.
佢又認為國際學生缺乏足夠嘅食物供應，會對佢哋嘅身心健康帶嚟負面影響。
So if you are malnourished, if you're not getting enough good food, and I don't mean just empty food calories, so to speak, but good nourishing food that provides vitamins and minerals and the kinds of things that are extremely important for our body's development. There also could be that students face illness, not just low-grade performance or academic performance, but insufficient nourishment that puts them at jeopardy to colds, COVID, all sorts of illnesses, and how can they engage in healthy sport, for example, if they're malnourished? And I think from my perspective, especially if you're doing a lot of academic work with your brain, physical activity with your body is really important.
有超過50年社會工作教學經驗嘅卑斯大學榮休教授 Graham Richards 都認為，大灣食物賙濟庫有責任照顧國際學生嘅權利，而學生都需要食物嚟維持學習能力。
Whether they're international students or whoever they are in need of food, and the food bank is saying that it will meet their need, then that's what it should do, or it should clarify its policy. It's obviously going to be very difficult. I think one of the impacts is probably going to be that if you're not really able to feed yourself, with healthy, nutritious food, you're not going to be able to study effectively. Your capacity to learn, your capacity to, get excited about new ideas, to be stimulated to, to think and to write and to tap on your keyboard, right? All of that I think is going to be very problematic. If you're going to be hungry, you're going to be spending a lot of your time looking for other alternative sources of food.
加拿大食物賙濟庫協會發布嘅最新數據顯示，今年3月本國嘅食物賙濟庫超過200萬人次到訪，創下新紀錄。如果同19年同期相比，升幅更加高達90%。佢認為呢個數字反映市民面對更大嘅經濟壓力，食物供應危機都越趨嚴重。
It's a scary statistic, and I believe it reflects really the overall cost of living in our city. That rents have gone up, housing has gone up. So sort of, I think people first and foremost think about, I've got to have shelter. And so that's taking a bigger chunk of the money that they've got available. And then secondly, food itself, the costs have gone up. And, if I could just make a comment about that, I'm not blaming farmers. I don't think that farmers are gouging people. I think what's happening is with global climate being a real reduction in food growing capacity worldwide.
為咗解決食物供應不足嘅問題，聯邦政府喺今年4月宣布，承諾喺5年之內撥款10億加元，推動一項全國性嘅食品計劃。卡就認為，除咗聯邦政府之外，省府同市府都有站企出嚟，從根源解決問題。
But if we had housing that was available to students and to everyone in need with lower incomes, we wouldn't have as much of a pressure and stress that leads people to just cut back on their food because their housing cost is so high. At the city level, I have pushed for us to use our city-owned land to couple with grants from the federal government and the provincial government and with nonprofit societies to provide more housing that is affordable. I absolutely, we are falling short. We have a lot of housing being developed in the city of Vancouver, but we're falling short on the affordable housing that's affordable for household incomes of $70,000 and less. And there is a significant number of those. So we are seeing homelessness rise.
Hussein 都認為各級政府最優先要解決係房屋問題，先可以確保市民有能力購買食物。
Locally and provincially, I would say housing would be a key or should be a key priority, because if people are able to have a roof over their head, then that's one basic need that's being covered, and that will allow them to then look for job opportunities or maybe secure them and not have enough for food. So housing would be one priority. And federally or nationally, what I would like to see is working towards a universal basic income, because the reason why people are accessing a food bank is because they don't have the money to pay for their groceries, right? So if people have a stable source of income, if they have money to pay for their necessities, then that will reduce the food bank use. And that's what I would like to see nationally is a universal income program.
而學者同學生團體代表就分別有唔同嘅睇法。
International students being invited to or enabled to come to Canada to study, right? So there has to be some way to ensure that if you're a host and you invite someone into your house, right, you have an obligation to feed them. I mean, I suppose that's the point. And so governments therefore have to, I think, sort of look very carefully at what they can afford to do. And if we're going to be inviting people to study with us, then okay, that's legitimate, but then you're going to have to ensure that lower income students, right, are actually going to have the capacity to do that.
What really needs to happen is the provincial and the federal government needs to invest more in public post-secondary education to alleviate the financial burden on students. Specifically, a $500 million investment is necessary to stabilize funding for institutions, which would prevent those surprise fee increases that international students can see and then depletes that $20,000. And then additionally, implementing a 2% cap on international tuition would allow them to better predict their education costs.
蘇先生就希望有更多市民可以捐贈食物，幫助更多有需要嘅人。
我應該就係政府方面啦，或者其他嗰啲團體啦，即係能夠多啲資助呢啲食物銀行，因為呢個食物銀行而家啲人越整越多嚟啊，變咗佢自己都好吃力俾呢個食物方面嘅供應，所以希望能夠政府啊、其他啲團體啊能夠多啲。就算私人都好啦，捐下錢咁嚟幫助資助呢啲個食物銀行添，因為個人越整越多嚟攞食物嘅人。
好啦，今集嘅節目時間就差唔多啦。咁如果觀眾對我哋嘅節目有啲乜嘢意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。我哋嘅電郵地址係 mvg26@fairchildtv.com。咁如果觀眾想上網重溫今集嘅節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站3個W fairchildtv.com 點擊節目重溫一欄就可以睇得返㗎喇。下星期同一時間再同大家見面，晚安。